this video may contain some spoilers for Echoes of Wisdom. After several months of eager anticipation, the brand new The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom, the first mainline Zelda game to feature the titular princess as the protagonist, was released last week, much to the delight of fans and critics alike. Echoes of Wisdom, for the most part, is a bright, cute, and thoughtful new take on the realm of Hyrule, taking some of the best parts from the traditional Zelda formula and mixing it with the open-world aspects of last year's critically acclaimed Tears of the Kingdom. All this whilst bringing a new twist on the series, not only through being the first mainline game to feature a heroine over a hero, but also through the new game mechanic of Echoes. After being imprisoned by her impostor of a father, Zelda meets the mysterious fairy creature known as Tri, who bestows upon her their eponymous Tri-Rod, with which Zelda can create copies of select objects and defeated enemies. With this rod, Zelda is tasked with not only escaping the castle prison, but saving Link, her father, and the land of Hyrule from impending demise at the hands of a brand new antagonist. Whilst Echoes of Wisdom does a lot of things right and is likely one of the most innovative Zelda games to date, the experience still feels lacking in some aspects, such as combat, the dungeons, and the GUI, for example. But first, let's discuss what Echoes of Wisdom does well, and what makes this game actually worth playing. When Echoes of Wisdom was first debuted in the Nintendo Direct earlier this year, I was initially hesitant in whether or not it would be a game I would get around to playing. That mainly owing to the continuation of the art style from Link's Awakening, as this cute, often labelled chibi art style is not to my personal taste. Don't get me wrong, however, the graphics for the game have been clearly well crafted, and there are many fans of this aesthetic choice too. Plus they made the Wizrobes so cute compared to whatever they're supposed to be in Breath of the Wild. Therefore, despite my personal preference for the art styles found in Wind Waker or Tears of the Kingdom, I won't be detracting any points from my score for the game as a consequence of the game's graphics. I also even wonder what other possible art style the game could have been made with to fit the top-down retro RPG world better. And it's the world that is yet another great selling point for this new addition to our beloved Zelda franchise. Echoes of Wisdom boasts a world map larger than any other top-down Zelda game, with a wide variety of biomes and species living within them. The world is bustling with life, from the Farron wetlands and the Deku Scrubs who live amongst them, to the Gorons of Elden Mountain, and both the river and sea Zora towards the northeast of the world. And I swear to God, these little fishmen are the cutest thing I've ever seen in a Zelda game. If Nintendo makes plushies of these, I don't think it'll end well for my wallet. But between all the creatures and settlements, treasures and caves, there's always something on the screen for the player to engage with. However, personally I was disappointed to see the Rito, my most beloved Zelda race, didn't make an appearance, despite Hebra Mountain being an important section of the game's story. In fact, the whole mountain is only inhabited by a lonely Yeti by the name of Conde, a character who is new to the Zelda franchise with Echoes of Wisdom. Then, the sound design of the game is also, at times, well thought out. The music, whilst not outstanding, and mostly rehashes of tried and tested Zelda classics, does its job of enhancing the atmosphere of the area the player is travelling through. Take for example the dry and exotic tones of the music heard throughout the Gerudo Desert. Or the intentionally horrid musical clashing of the Zora during their section of the story. However, it's one minute detail of the design that really caught my eye, or should I say, ear. When lost in the still world, the simple delay effect added to Zelda's groans really adds to the feeling of vastness and unease that the game wants you to feel. And I think it's details like this that really show the game has been well thought out. However, the best, and sometimes worst, part of the game is the new echo system that's been introduced. Over the course of my playthrough, I've had countless hilarious and puzzling encounters using echoes, and sometimes both at the same time. Take for example working out which echo to summon to cross a wide gap or scale a high cliff, or simply taking out your bed mid-boss fight to catch a few Z's. Honestly, my insomnia is jealous of how Zelda sleeps like that. I also enjoyed myself way too much summoning excessive amounts of spear moblins and watching them lackadaisically wander around in search of the next Zol to impale. But seriously, the huge amount of echoes really gives players a super fun and creative new experience, as there are so many ways to defeat enemies and overcome the puzzles in the game. Players can fly over cliffs with beds or birds, and cover vast oceans with flying tiles. We can kill enemies by launching bomb fish at them, or drowning them in water. There are so many fun, crazy, and weird ways to experience the game, so even though the game has a set story and destination the player will eventually reach, no two players' experience will be the same. No two players will beat a boss in the same way. No two players will scale Hebra Mountain in the same way. And no two players will burn down an entire village the same either. Ergo, it's possible that Echoes of Wisdom has one of the best replay values of all mainline Zelda games, as we can use different echoes to overcome challenges we've seen in the past. However, that's one of the main problems with the game and ecosystem in general. In some ways, it's a challenge for it to even be enjoyable. Despite the fact that there are over 110 echoes to choose from in the game, it's very easy for players to just rotate the same few echoes around in order to complete it. Take for example the Old Bed Echo. It's one of the earliest echoes you get throughout the game, and despite its early availability, it became my most used echo by the end of the run, despite better echoes later becoming available. And the reason for this is twofold. The first being, the player may never really think to use another echo, or at least I didn't, as when I saw a gap, I knew a bed could cross it, so why use something else? And the other main reason being, menuing. Echoes of Wisdom suffers to a greater extent what Tears of the Kingdom suffered with, and that being excessive menuing. Now don't get me wrong, I don't know how Nintendo could have created a more optimized menuing system, maybe adding favorites or something, but the menuing does to an extent inhibit creativity in the game. Having to scroll through countless echoes in search of the one you need for a particular moment can become frustrating and break the pacing of the game and the combat. Additionally, the chance of missing essential echoes may be off-putting for casual fans of the game. For example, I missed a platform echo that could have saved me potentially 20 minutes in the Lightning Temple. I'm unsure if more casual players would spend 20 minutes summoning a Chomp Fin to get past the water flows like I did. Furthermore, placing the echoes themselves can be a frustrating process, with Zelda loving to spawn boxes to the left or right when I'm trying to ascend over a cliff or obstacle. Again, this is a minor detail, but since the game is on a grid system, a small marker to show where you're aiming your summon could go a long way. The story and additional content are both lacking in their own way too. Whilst the epic twist on the male-dominated series is a welcome fresh take on the Zelda franchise, the story itself doesn't leave much to write home about. The story is a simple mesh of typical RPG archetypes with little imagination thrown into the world building, character design, or plot. Whilst I understand the game's design philosophy is to appeal to children as well as longtime Zelda fans, child-friendly content can still be engaging for adult audiences as well. The simple story can sometimes leave the players wanting the cutscenes to end, so we can simply go back to killing Zolls by crushing them with rocks. But the lack of an interesting plot is not much of an issue with the world. Instead, some characters feel underdeveloped. For example, the final antagonist of the game. The character design is pretty forgettable, and the reveal of their character during the story leaves much more to be desired. Conde 2, whilst rousing my feelings of empathy, is another rather played out character. Including the Rito on Hebra Mountain could have made for a more interesting story, but then, maybe I just like birds too much. The additional content too leaves us wanting more as well. I spent countless hours in Tears of the Kingdom running around collecting photos of different insects and fruit, just because the game was fun and engaging. And I think Echoes of Wisdom could have that too. The game is fun to run around and explore, but the limited number of side quests and their content mostly being, give my son a fish, means that outside the main game there isn't so much to do. And as a veteran Zelda fan, thanks to Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, I want more. This is definitely made up for with the replayability of Echoes of Wisdom. Whilst players may wish to complete everything in Tears of the Kingdom, the challenge of replaying Echoes of Wisdom in a new and unique way can more than make up for the lack of side adventures. So, if you're still up in the air about purchasing Echoes of Wisdom, despite its shortcomings, the game is a beautiful work of art. The replayability is high, the graphics are clean and well made, and the world has something to explore at every twist and turn. Then, the Echoes themselves make for an exciting twist to the long and historic franchise. Then, the game also has some hilarious moments. Like when fighting a boss, one of my Babokins failed to notice him despite the boss smashing into him. Or holding a piece of meat whilst bound to a crow and flying forever. I also find it funny to imagine the whole game is about the antagonist's need for YouTuber-based caffeine products. Then, this game has so many glitches and tricks that I think could make the speedrunning scene so amazing to watch or be a part of. I personally love challenging games, and I'm super excited to try minimal echo runs, or runs where I never use my sword and never heal. And from a casual standpoint, if you're willing to try different echoes and experience a game in a way you're not used to, then Echoes of Wisdom can be a really fun game for you. The game too is suitable for all ages, even if the story may be a little simple for adults. So, overall, giving the game a rating of 80 seems reasonable, with good graphics and replayability really building up the score, and a few minor things like menuing and world design keeping it from reaching the heights of Breath of the Wild or Ocarina of Time. But how about you? Do you agree with me? Or is this game up there with Ocarina of Time? What do you think about Echoes of Wisdom? Would you have liked to see more side adventures or more echoes? Or maybe the game was complete enough for you as it is? Either way, let us know in the comments. And if you'd like to hear more from us about games, anime, and collectibles, don't forget to subscribe.